Surgeons of Reddit, what's the weirdest object you've had to remove from someone's butt? I wasn't the surgeon. I was the patient's family doc. And took care of him in the hospital for his short stay after. He had a cue ball get stuck. Not sure exactly what he thought would be the way to get it out. We had a lot of trouble getting it out. The conversation of the surgeons trying to come up with a way to get it out was pretty hilarious. I'm a vet. Dog had eaten a whole roll of poop bags, the plastic baggies people use to clean up after their pets on walks. They unspiraled in his gut and spread from stomach to colon. His owners realized what had happened when he started pooping out bags and brought him in through ER. My co-worker went in to cut him, and the scene she described was hilarious. He would intermittently strain a little and poop out a little section of bags. Someone would tear them off, and he'd be okay for a bit, then poop out some more, like he was dispensing them for himself. He did great after surgery. ER doc here. As previous posters suggest, it becomes hard to distinguish what is weird anymore. So judge for yourselves. 3 lemons, about a foot of broom handle, a light bulb, which did not survive his adventure, so many toilet brushes, inserted brush and handle first, a series of toothpicks, any number of bottles, aerosol cans, etc. My favorite case was a simple DLDO. We read it and the radiologist's report read: there is an approximately 15 cm cylindrical foreign body in the large intestine extending proximally from the rectum. Judging by the indistinct outline of the foreign body. Endotech here. Had a guy come in with a capped section of PVC pipe filled with mercury because he liked the sloshing when he'd jerkin his turkin. Had to call in hazmat and security had to be called when he became violent because they wouldn't give the mercury laden pipe back. ER nurse. I've seen baseballs, loads of dildos, cans of soda, vegetables. There should be a public service announcement about using dildos in the bum. It needs to have balls or some sort of base so it doesn't get lost up there. Women's vaginal dildos don't need them, as there is only so far it will go. Doctor I worked with once told a man, it's okay if you want to put things in your rectum. You just have to use the right things. Without a base. Without a trace. Edit. Holy moly, I missed all the notifications on this post. Full credit to Jordan. Jesse. Go. S annual Anal August awareness campaign. Years ago my nurse wife told me a man had an apple removed from his butt, but I never understood how this could be possible. I often think about this but have never asked her for more details. I'll ask her over the table at Christmas dinner tonight. Disappointing update. I didn't ask her at the Christmas dinner. There were small children around and everyone was having a nice time. It didn't seem cool to bring it up. Also, no one else started any butt stuff related conversations, providing an opening for my inquiry. I asked her today but also told her about my post on here. She didn't feel comfortable sharing the details with you guys, so I guess you'll just have to use your imagination. Someone posted about a similar situation and suggested they had possibly worked with my wife. Based on the details in their post, I am sure it was a separate apple butt incident. An enormous silicone butt plug which broke off at its base inside the patient. It was shaped like a soft cone on a stalk, with the base at the bottom. Had to remove it in pieces. Also, an Orangina bottle 2 years before this butt plug. A friend of mine is a surgery resident, and during one of her trauma shifts a meth head walked in with an incandescent light bulb in his colon. It was shoved in with the wide part first. They were dilating the rectum in an attempt to remove it, and the resident in charge of the procedure managed to accidentally separate the metal base from the glass globe, which immediately shattered under the pressure of the colon. They had to perform a partial colectomy to resolve the complication. Meth is a hell of a drug. A foreign body per rectum is a fairly common occurrence. In my time rotating in the ER, the most common things have been yucca roots, avocados, shampoo bottles, etc. But that light bulb story is still unmatched. I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen the X-ray. When I worked in the ER we had a guy come in with a 6 battery mag light stuck up Main Street. The funny part is that it was inserted bulb out and it was turned on. So we laid him down prone and the doc spread his cheeks. Then the room lit up like he just cracked open Marcellus Wallace's briefcase. I'd be more interested in what non-medical people have had to help people remove from their butts. My cat swallowed dental floss and I had to pull it out of her ass. I'm not a medical professional. Just a grossed out lady with a new lidded trash bin. Edit. At the risk of repeating everyone else commenting. Don't pull things out of butts. Cut it off section by section unless there's zero resistance. Just go to a vet. Especially if there's blood or your pet is really uncomfortable. Not my story. My friend is a radiographer. A guy came into the hospital with Barbie dolls up his butt. After scans, one came out without too much issue, but the other was too far up. They were worried that if it was pulled out, its arms would open and puncture the bowel. So they scheduled surgery. The X-ray staff waiting excitedly for news. The surgeon then returned and with a serious voice announced, "We found Ken." Not a surgeon but. Wowie wowie. Do I know a lot of cases involving falling on things and other such excuses. Here are just some of the things I know. A Buzz Lightyear action figure. A Barbie doll. Plaster of Paris. They wanted a mold of his colon. Instead, it had to be cut open as it was glued shut by the plaster. Glasses. The sight kind. Jewelry. Mostly necklaces. A cucumber witch. After proclaiming he fell over in the garden naked and landed on his cucumber patch. Still had the Tesco wrapper on IT. A light bulb. Finally, on a rather dark note, if you're a fool who slipped something up their black hole, 'cause the bus sucks things in disturbingly well, they can't retrieve. Please, for the love of God, go to your doctor. People have died due to toxic shock due to this shit. A guy here died of it in 2 weeks due to having a DLDO stuck up there and never went to his docs. Your pride can recover, but you can't recover from death. I was an RN at a busy Detroit emergency department. A homeless woman, frequent flyer and drug abuser, came in to see us with abdominal pain. The X-ray revealed 17 oval-shaped objects in her vaginal space. They were removed by a very diligent medical resident armed with a speculum and Magil forceps. With the aid of an ultrasound tech. 17 Barbie doll heads. Their removal was made a bit easier by their long hair. Edit. Former co-worker saw my post. Small world. Reminded me of the man with the small fluorescent bulb in his rectum. He insisted on the doctor in the ER just pulling it out and sending him on his way. But those bulbs break very easily, lacerated colon, and are full of toxic chemicals, poisoning. Surgical removal was recommended, but he flatly refused. Because hey, what would he tell his wife? He signed out AMA and we never saw him again. Son of a doctor here. My dad removed an entire peeled sweet potato from someone's colon once. He swore that he had just slipped and fell on it. Maybe he was just cooking while naked. He peeled the potato. We received a patient with horrible pain that felt like constipation. He couldn't poop and laxatives weren't helping. We soon found out that the blockage wasn't just constipation. It was a string of beads several meters long that had become tangled into an ugly ball inside. I had to snip it apart and carefully pull pieces of it out. When most of it was out, his asshole became a rocket engine with diarrhea as the propellant. I've seen a small size Fanta orange soda can get pulled straight out of a man's rectum. I once had a flatmate who was a nurse. She had a patient who came in complaining of stomach pains, which was caused by the cucumber he'd shoved up his butt a couple of days earlier. Apparently the smell caused by pickling a cucumber in your colon is extremely nasty. I'm not a doctor, but my cousin is a colorectal surgeon. She's dealt with at least 2 people who've put light bulbs in their butts. Out of all the household items you could think of, why would a light bulb seem like a fine idea? Edit. Not the butt. Close to it. My sister worked in a urology clinic and has some very crazy stories ranging from at-home sex change procedures to this case in particular. She had to remove almost 200 BBs from a guy's bladder via his urethra one by one. As the guy had a fetish of shoving things down his urethra. Looks like his BB gun was pump action. MD. But not a surgeon. On my surgery we had to remove a mini Nerf football from someone's butt. He kept apologizing and saying he wasn't gay. Later, the attending surgeon told us that it's always the straight guys coming in with stuff up their butts and they always try explaining that they aren't gay. Football up the ass. Gives new meaning to the term wide receiver. From looking at the medical reddits I have learned that every type of object known to man has been placed inside of someone's anus somewhere at least once. We progress from sticking everything we see into our mouths as kids to sticking everything in our ass as adults apparently. Edit. Math on the brain. Not a surgeon. But a former anesthesia technician while in the army. I had a few interesting cases come through. Top 5. Not in order. 1. Light bulb. Not like a lamp light bulb. But one of those LED lightsaber bulbs that you see air traffic controller people using. 2. 24-inch double-ended ribbed black DLDO. That was a guy who had it stuck there. 3. Soda can. 4. Ken doll. This was actually removed from a woman's vagina. 5. Half a baguette. Not a ducking clue how that happened honestly. I've thought about it a lot and just never could figure it out. Girl I know had suspected cervical cancer. Saw 2 different doctors before a specialist examined her surrounded by trainee doctors. Grabbed and pulled on what everyone thought was an inflamed, infected, tumorous cervix. It was a love egg. It had been in there for 3 months. Don't know what qualifies as weird anymore. Between myself and friends. Glass DLDO. Vibrating DLDO. Travel toothbrush holder. Campbell's soup can. Cucumber. Maglite. Cologne bottle. Sean John unforgivable head. Time capsule. Light bulb. Aerosol can cap. The oddest one was literally nothing. Guy comes in complaining of something stuck up their butt by girlfriend. A doctor feels and nothing there. X-ray and CT scan says maybe something there. I don't feel anything. In the operating room I feel deeper and still nothing. Finally do a full colonoscopy and nothing there. Not a surgeon but my ex was. A policeman and his wife came in because he had something stuck up his butt. When my ex asked what, the wife said a vibrator. Exactly like this one. And pulled out a 9-inch vibrator from her handbag. Cassava. And everybody in my country knows it cause it showed up in the news because someone in the operating room had the great idea to record a video of it and make it viral. Middle-aged man goes into A&E with something up his back passage. Goes into X-ray where he sees my girlfriend. What's up there? 4 baking potatoes. Not the little ones either. Each one about the size of a fist. As he tells it. He was at home cooking dinner and slipped in the kitchen and 4 potatoes went up his ass. Sure they did. I'm so glad you asked this. My favorite sorry was a guy who came in with a can of Glade up his butt. What scent you ask? Wife is a surgeon resident. She's had to remove a toilet brush from a man's butt. When asked why it was up there he said he wondered how it would feel. Turns out he also wondered about plungers and toothbrushes too. My mom worked in the ER at Johns Hopkins back in the 70s. She pulled a Coke bottle out of a senator's ass. She refuses to say who though because ethics. Boyfriend of a girl whose mom is an or nurse. From her. A hand-carved foot-long wooden DLDO from an 80-year-old man's. Story from her father an EOD. A live grenade in the vagina of the very scared cheating girlfriend of a very angry soldier. Had a friend in med school whose assignment was to figure out how his cadaver died. He found about $5 in quarters up the man's ass. Don't shove metal up your ass, metal poisoning is real. But hey. $5 is $5. Vet surgeon here might have an unfair advantage in this thread. One time a dog ate its own foot. Dog came in missing a paw from the wrist down. Owner had no idea where it went. But the dog also had some serious GI signs. One X-ray elucidated both problems. Not every day you see an abdomen with a literal limb inside. Not a surgeon. However, I knew someone in high school who decided to shove a Hexbug Nano, small bug toy, up his ass. I wonder how he's doing. Swifter puffer. Little scent ball that puffed lavender mist every few minutes. At least it didn't smell too bad. Mason jar. Not a surgeon but worked at the hospital. Dude had a mason jar up his ass. And a bunch of safety pins through his penis. Drugs. Nurse here. One time helped remove a G.I. Joe from someone's ass. Like. Full size 12-inch OG doll. The X-ray was hilarious. I did some rotations. Paramedic. Not doc. In Vegas, and a guy came in with an onion stuffed up there. The surgeon who was tasked to remove it asked if he would cry once he cut the onion out. I've been a surgeon for 15 years and let me tell you. Weirdest thing? Probably Legos. I'm talking Lego people and Lego bricks. So many small pieces. It's hard for me to watch my kids play with them now knowing what I know. Medical student, not a surgeon. But one stroke to a nunchuck. The other half left in ice lack between the eyes of his girlfriend when it broke. She needed stitches. Remember kids? Cheap nunchucks you win at a carnival make bad SX toys. Internal medicine physician here. Not sure why everyone thinks surgeons would be the ones removing stuff from people's rectums when it's probably most often the emergency department or us. Personally, the grossest thing I have manually disimpacted was probably a partially digested whole corn on the cob that the patient had eaten several days prior. Was just pulling out fistfuls of corn for like half an hour. But yes. I also have definitely seen the occasional light bulb. Razor blade. Or DLDO lost in the abyss. Probably the best story I have was during residency. My co-resident spent a good amount of time searching around for a Q-tip that a patient lost up his butt while stretching up there. He told the patient he was unsuccessful at finding the Q-tip only to be asked why in the world he was expecting to find one. Turns out he was supposed to be looking in the patient's roommate's butt. Had to go do another rectal exam next door. Must have been an awkward conversation across the curtain later that night. Not a surgeon. Heard this from my father-in-law who used to work as an ER nurse. They had a guy come in who had gotten slammed drunk. While he was passed out, his friends stuck 2 AA batteries up the guy's DCK. Not up his ass. His DCK. From what I remember, they had to actually cut the guy's DCK open to get them out and stitch it back together. Edit. I agree with you guys. I really hope he tried to charge them. He did tell my father-in-law they would no longer be his friends. It's an incredible invasion of privacy. If not sexual assault. I have no idea how one would pull this shit off. Those guys were not his friends. My grandfather was a proctologist from the 1950s-80s. He said the most difficult thing to remove was a crystal salt shaker. The most fragile was a light bulb. One year he was late to thanking because someone had decided to stuff the turkey and come to my grandpa to get unstuffed. He said the onion was difficult to remove because it kept coming apart layer by layer. A guy came in saying that he got mugged by 3 guys with masks on and that they had placed an object in his bed. The object was a cylinder made of clay. It looked like a homemade vase. It broke in the process of removal. It had a small plastic bags of coke inside. I'm a med student who just finished his ER rotation. I was assigned a patient who was known to be one of the resident butt packers on the unit, and he was presenting with abdominal pain. I was lucky enough to be able to interview him and make some deductions and get some imaging. Looking through the abdominal x-ray with the attending, we discovered that he had an excessively large potato in his rectum. That's par for the course, but what was hilarious was the attending's reaction. I had been working with him for weeks and he was a very straight-faced dry humor kind of guy. He walked in and pulled up the x-ray, looked at the man, and said, "So we need to talk about chewing our food." I about lost it in the room and now I tell this story every chance I get. A small sculpture of Jerry Seinfeld made of fusilli pasta. My high school GF's dad was a surgeon. After school we were hanging out, and the pager goes off like usual. He calls and talks to someone on the phone for like 2 minutes. He goes to leave and says in a very casual, slight Kentucky twang, "I've gotta go pull a light bulb out of some guy's ass." He's gone for a while. And when he comes back he tells about how tricky it is to get the light bulbs out without breaking them. Not a surgeon, but a nurse here. One time around Christmas time, couple of police officer bruff an inmate for possession of illegal drugs. We were confused why he has bruff to the ER just for possession. Anyways, we ended finding out he had an Easter egg full of meth in his rectum and they were trying to figure how to get it out without busting it. Well, it was the end of my shift so I never found out what happened. Honestly, I couldn't care less what happened to him. He was an asshole and treating us like shit, and at the end of 14 hours shift and being short staff, I was ready to get home. Updated. Wow, this is my most upvoted thread. Thanks, Merry Christmas. During my rotation in the ER in nursing school, a woman came in with abdominal pain due to foreign object. My preceptor laughed and told me to room her. Turns out she lost her 12 vibrator in her butt the night before and failed to poop it out the next morning. The MD had a look of defeat walking out of the room after retrieving it. Apparently it happens more often than you might think. Was called to the ER to pull out a 750ml glass bottle of extra virgin olive oil out of someone's rectum. As it turned out, the bottle was jammed far beyond the rectum. I shoved my hand in the patient's ass all the way up to my elbow to grab a hold of the bottle, but it was too slippery and proved impossible to pull out. We put a scope in to see if we could lay a snare around the bottle and yank it out. No luck. He ended up with a colostomy. It wasn't his first time either. Not a doctor, but I got punched in the face once by a disturbed woman. She lived as a group home where I worked and always attacked people when nervous, and got sent to the ER for a possible broken nose. It wasn't. Doc came in laughing to show a nurse. He called her out into the hall and held an x-ray up to the light. About 10 inches of PVC piping stuck up the butt of the guy in the next room. This was 1989. So before HIPAA. I put a lot of stuff in my butt. Please don't post about it on Reddit. Spider-Man figurine from a kid's butt. Apparently he had actually been jumping on a trampoline without pants and landed on it. Edit. Wanted to add, not surgically removed. I was a med student at the time and watched it being removed whole. The kid was under sedation. My attending removed a potato from some guy's butt. The guy said he cleaned his windows naked while standing on a stool. Lost balance and fell. Anus first. On a potato that somehow was left on the floor. Ah yes, the countless surgeons of Reddit will definitely find their way to this post. Don't you know Reddit? Not a surgeon, but a few years ago someone from the hospital in Costa Rica took a photo of them removing a yucca from someone's butt. It got shared widely across the country and the sale of yucca plummeted.